There's Karen. Okay.
There's Karen.
It is 9 a.m. on Friday, January 21st, 2024. This is the Advisory and Finance Budget Subcommittee E, talking about Health and Human Services, as well as Planning and Development. And my name is Bruce Howard. I am the subcommittee chair. And I am joined by Lorenzo. I have been on Advisory and Finance, I think I'm going on completing my second year. So still lots to learn. Lorenzo, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Lorenzo Pizarro, also relatively new to the Advisory and Finance Committee. This will be my first budget season. I was on the Advisory and Finance Committee for the fall cycle, so starting to understand the workings and operations of Advisory and Finance. Just to be, Bruce, just FYI or full disclosure, I am also on the member of the Board of Health. So
okay.
Not sure if I can vote on that.
Yes, you can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I'm empowering you to vote, so
okay.
There's no question in my mind that I need you and I need to agree on the department budgets.
Okay.
Because it's just two of us. We had other committee members, and unfortunately, they're not available. But we are joined this morning by Jeanette White, who has experience in this. Jeanette, do you want to introduce yourself? Jeanette, can you come off of mute? She may have stepped away. Okay. We are recording this meeting. It will be available on PAC TV via the PAC TV website, just so everyone knows. And we will allow public comment. I'd like to, it will provide 3 minutes per speaker at the end of each presentation as time allows, and additional time after all presentations, again, as time allows. At this point, are there any members of the public that wish to make public comment? Hearing, seeing none, we'll proceed. Again, this budget subcommittee is being held virtually, so we are all on Zoom, which hopefully we're all used to working with. So let's dive right in and talk about public health, Department 510. Not sure how you want to proceed, but do you want to speak to or share? We can, I'd like to come back to the numbers at the end, but if you would like to address, well, do any introductions and provide brief overview, and then get into any changes to the organization, your assessment of the proposed budgets, and then extending on to cover any revolving funds and capital requests, and close out by talking about future opportunities, challenges, and any comments that you have for us to consider.
Okay. Good morning. Karen Keene, Director of Public Health. I've been with the Health Department for 11 years, and I've been the director since 2019. Joining me in the Public Health Department is Margaret Coe, our health agent, Rachel Milroy, our health technician, and Dana Burke, our administrative assistant. We also work with a contracted food inspector and a contracted public health nurse. The department also supports, through the Public Health Excellence Grant, which we have been awarded through the state of Massachusetts, 3 additional employees who are a coordinator for the grant, a public health nurse, and a food inspector. So our department supports the health and overall well-being of our residents and our visitors here in the town of Plymouth. Together with our 5-member board, of which Lorenzo mentioned that he is a member of, the department establishes rules, regulations, and policies to prevent disease and injury, promote healthy living, and prevent diseases to ensure a healthy Plymouth. That's our goal and that's our charge. We, here at the Public Health team, implement and evaluate public health strategies through assessment of public policy development and insurance. We also enforce certain general laws and codes. We enforce the Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 11 of Public Health, including the Health Code for Infectious Communicable Disease Surveillance, Housing Code for Healthy and Safe Housing, and the State Sanitary Code for camps, swimming pools, and Title V for septic systems and private wells. So changes to our, I should also mention that something that sometimes folks don't realize that we also do is we also license all food establishments here in Plymouth, of which there's over 600. We also deal with pools, semi-public swimming pools. We inspect them yearly, of which there are over 60. And then we also send out licenses for tobacco permits, garbage and rubbish haulers, septic haulers, and also horse stables. So through those permitting process, we also generate revenue, which is about $580,000. The budget that we're requesting for fiscal year 2025 represents a couple of increases. One, in the personnel services is an increase of $13,090, which represents step increases that are part of our contractual employee agreements. A small increase in a vacation earned buyback, which is the director's right to buy back 1 week of earned vacation in July. I am reserving that right as the director to do that. So there is a difference of $107 because my salary has increased since last year. So the week that I'm buying back, the cost of that has also increased. You'll see also something that's called public health services, which is a pretty large portion of our budget. It represents $69,100. That represents the food inspector that I mentioned earlier and a public health nurse. So those two factors are combined to represent that number. Also, you would think that that laboratory services number of $9,000 would be interesting in a public health department. You know, we don't have our own lab, but what we do, however, is we test all of our public beaches. And those samples are sent to a lab for testing to make sure that all of our public beaches are safe for residents and visitors. And that testing is done weekly. The other change that I am requesting to this year's budget is a change in classification for our administrative assistant. I am requesting that that position be reclassed to a health A5-1 position, which currently does exist in the OP contract. So it would actually be almost, it would be a health department office manager. The reason for this is several layers for this situation, but currently our administrative assistant position has changed dramatically since it was originally written or created.
So the job description has changed.
the job that they're doing has changed, so it
The job
really
has
needs
changed.
to
Okay.
be brought up to current standards of what is expected of them and what they're actually doing. Things that we're changing the technology, things that we didn't know of before and now here, things like OpenGov, where we're having to deal with a whole new set of software and how we communicate back and forth to our residents, how we use ClickFix. That's a way that residents can send us situations that are out there in town that need to be corrected. And also a complete and total Munis upgrade, which is our financial software package. Also, the responsibilities of dealing with the Board of Health have also increased. And the function of supporting the Public Health Excellence Grant employees and the administrative part of that role as well. So all of that together encompasses the reason why I have submitted a request to have that reclass of that position. That will not be reflected, however, in the budget, this budget, that will be reflected in a salary reserve line. And I think that covers everything I wanted to say in my little blurb.
Okay, just a question on the lab services. That has not increased from 24 to 25.
Correct.
You're
The
okay
lab
with
that
that?
The lab that we used said that they would not increase their price for the testing.
Okay.
And the lab that we use, I will say is exceptionally reliable, but also very timely, which is so important. Because if we do have a test that's not the way that we want it to be, that does show something might be wrong with the beach area, that lab is so responsive to getting another test turned around quickly, so that if that is indeed then corrected, we can open that beach again for our public and our visitors.
Well, I think you do very important work, so
Thank you.
you said you updated the numbers in the
Yes,
document.
I sent you the corrected
Did-
numbers, Bruce. I apologize for that. That was
That's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I got the attachment.
I corrected them in the email that you sent yesterday and sent it back. And it does show on my end that they do show up as the corrected numbers.
All right,
But
hang
I'll
on.
tell you what.
I think they're directly in the document, Bruce. It wasn't an attachment.
Oh,
She
yeah, I
actually
changed the
edited the
document, I'm
document,
sorry.
Ah, okay,
Yes.
got
the
it,
email itself.
got it. Okay,
Bruce, could you
Yeah.
share that?
I will. Just
Yeah,
give me a
I was
sec.
looking at the one pagers for each department, and I was looking at the one that maybe I'm looking at an older one.
All right, so it's this block right here.
Ah, okay.
Correct.
Perfect. Okay. So those numbers are in line with my expectation and aligned to this report from finance. So I am good with that. Lorenzo, do you have any questions?
I do. And these are the numbers for 23, 24, and proposed 25. I see that they're increasing. And I typically ask this similar question. So there's a demand for public health services, right? And thank you, Karen, for the overview. How do you measure that? I mean, are there objective measures by requests from from the community, how are you measuring the demand? And then a follow-up to that would be, you know, you mentioned revenues. Could you go over that amount again that the department use from fees and things like that? So there's
Sure.
two questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So our revenues generated through licenses, license renewals, permits, and fees. Our,
Hang on, Karen, just a sec.
sure.
Lorenzo, in the binder, there's a white page for the Public Health Division, and it includes a table with the revenue.
Okay.
Do you have that?
Yeah,
Lorenzo,
I'm going through it now, but
okay.
thanks.
As Karen was speaking, I saw at the bottom the 580,000 number that she
Mhm.
mentioned in her narrative.
Okay, so 580, if I see that, and that's what I heard earlier, Karen, thank you. If you look at the budget, 422, you're actually not a cost center, but you know, revenue positive.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's
Welcome.
all I had for that.
Thank you.
I think the point on metrics is well taken. So you might want to think about requests or services provided and talk about your metrics year over year that would support any future budget increases. So you know, obviously you're doing a ton of work. It's just being able to talk about how your workload changes over time might be helpful.
Absolutely. And I do somewhere have those numbers where I can tell you, oh, here we go. So just to give you a kind of an idea of what we do, we did 330 inspections for septic systems, final septic system inspections. So what that means is when someone puts in a septic system, someone from this office, and we have all been trained and we're all Title V certified, we have licenses that we actually hold by the state of Massachusetts, that we can go out and we can inspect a septic system. So last year or the year before, we did 330 of those final inspections. Those cost $100. So we bring in that money by being able to do that. So that could fluctuate, but we don't know that. You know, that's not a number that we know. We do know that our restaurants are probably going to be around 600, give or take a couple of them, all of our food establishments. Numbers also would be perk tests, also having to do with a perk test has to happen before you put a septic system in and test those soils and make sure that where you're putting your septic system is the best place your septic system can go. That figure can change based upon, thank you, based upon if we have a growth in real estate, if we have a new housing development. When things like that happen, then we have a need for additional septic systems. That's sometimes hard to predict. Sometimes you can tell if a new development's coming down the line, and sometimes they're here before you know it. And you're talking about an additional larger number of septic systems that have to go in. We also have well permits for people who have private drinking wells. We do not permit a well if you use it, say, for irrigation purposes, but we do if you're using it for drinking purposes. So these are things that have somewhat of a fluctuation, but I certainly could, you know, if I knew that new developments were occurring and they were going to be on septic, and planning and development does keep me in the loop for those, that we could change accordingly. But the numbers pretty much stay within a certain range that I can predict what they're going to be pretty close each fiscal year to fiscal year.
Okay. Cool. Other questions, comments, Lorenzo?
No, no further questions. I think that's great that
The one other
Yes.
thing I'm sorry, Lorenzo, to interrupt, but the one other thing I should mention that we also do, which doesn't reflect a price, to be honest with you, but it's an important piece I think that folks realize, is that along with housing, meaning if someone rents an apartment or a house in the town of Plymouth and they have an issue with their landlord, they come to us to reach a resolution. So we're working with the occupant and the landlord to reach a resolution based on the Massachusetts State Housing Code. But there's no cost or revenue associated with that. But it's a task that we handle here at the department. The same way that we also handle something called an abate a nuisance. That means that if someone is upset about something in the town of Plymouth and they want it changed, whether it be their neighbor has a lot of trash in their yard, they have chickens and they're free ranging and they're going onto their yard from their neighbor's property. These are things that we also deal with on a daily basis, myself and my team, for anyone here in Plymouth who wants to have their voice heard for something that's concerning them. And that's, we call, the title is abate a nuisance, but it's really looking to see how we can bring those people together and how we can fix whatever that problem is so that the people, our residents can continue to live, you know, in harmony the best way that they possibly can here in Plymouth.
Again, metrics would be helpful. Not so much for today, but in the future.
Absolutely.
The other thing is, with the ADU, the
Accessory dwelling unit.
accessory dwelling units, and the move to authorize those both at the state and the town level, that is going to be more of a burden on you as well. So,
Right. That would
that-
be definitely part of the review process, because you would have to make sure, obviously, that if that home is on septic, that their septic system is adequate to handle the addition of the accessory dwelling unit.
Yep, yep. All right, Lorenzo.
Yes, I had a couple follow-up questions. So, or a comment and a question. So it sounds like, and just from a high level, revenues is greater than proposed 2025 budget. So that's good from a P&L perspective. Is that a correct assessment?
That is correct.
Okay. And then line item for the, and this is because I'm on the board, Karen, the line item on legal services is 0, right? And, you know, we've had some discussion around nuisance and whether legal and so how does the board, if that line item is 0, where would we go for if we had to have a legal
Well, the good
request?
news, Lorenzo, is through Derek Brindisi, our town manager, we now have an in-house legal counsel.
Okay.
That is actually an employee of the town of Plymouth that is here located at the town hall. And I have to say that Mr. Brindisi has been phenomenal about allowing us access to that legal counsel. So, so that's why you see that it's a 0 cost to us, because there's no longer a need to seek outside legal counsel. It's internal now.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
You're
No
welcome.
further questions, Bruce.
At this time, I'm going to open for public comment. Anyone from the public wish to address the public health budget? Hearing and seeing none, we'll close public comment. Karen, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Michelle, any other comments to add on this?
Thank you, Bruce. Just noting that the health division this is the first year they are now part of the Health and Human Services Department, which is, of course, a new department, and health was not in the previous Department of Community Resources. So we're thrilled and happy. It makes perfect sense to have Karen and her team as part of the Health and Human Services Department. And just introducing very quickly, The Assistant Commissioner of Health and Human Services, Emily Wilson, is joining us as well.
Hi, Emily.
So thank you.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much. Thank you, Michelle.
Great. I think that's a wrap.
Okay,
So we have a few minutes before Center for Active Living.
Actually, Caitlin is on if you would like to proceed, but that is certainly up to you.
thank you.
I'm ready, so
Okay.
we can proceed.
Thank you. Caitlin is the new Assistant Director of the Center for Active Living, just so people know her role.
Oh, there you are, Caitlin. Hi. You want to come off mute?
Hi.
There you go. Great. So Caitlin, I'm Bruce Howard. I'm joined by Lorenzo. And we are we're both members of Advisory and Finance and looking at the budgets across Health and Human Services this morning. So with that, you want to give us an overview of Center for Active Living?
Michelle, is there anything you want to cover first, or?
Yep. So what we've done, Caitlin, is from the memo we've just kind of given, because this is, the public is listening and watching. We want to kind of give a little overview of Cal, some of the highlights we did in the memo, and then go into the budget.
Okay.
So I can certainly start and lead that, and then you can do the budget piece if you like. Caitlin is brand new in her role, so I have left the directorship of Cal. So I'm happy to kind of lead this a little bit, just letting people know Center for Active Living, obviously a variety of services for seniors in our community. 40% of Plymouth is age 55 plus. So you're looking at around 28,000 of our population is our seniors thriving, living in a perfect community. We are, Cal is nationally accredited, which means that they are in the top 200 out of 12,000 plus senior centers in the nation. And that's a high designation for our local Center for Active Living to have. There's a 16-member senior task force whose mission is to create a sustainable community blueprint for senior best practices, and is on schedule to complete a comprehensive needs assessment. It is the goal of both the select board, a stated goal, and the goal of the senior task force for Plymouth to become an age and dementia friendly designated community, a formal designation by our state. Cal this past year, a few highlights, new programs established, really important. We've partnered with Alzheimer's Family Support Center of Cape Cod to bring a day program, a supportive day program to the center, which is so necessary for those, dealing with and caring for those caregivers that are caring for loved ones with dementia and other cognitive impairments. They never get a break, quite frankly. And so this program is a certified, well professional led group where loved ones can drop off those with dementia and Alzheimer's and cognitive impairments and get a little free time. And those with those impairments can actually enjoy structured events at our center. The other thing that Cal did this year is partnered with Duxbury Senior Center and applied for a grant to bring the first ever senior specific mental health counseling services to on site at Cal, working with Bridgewater State University. And their field placements for MSW, their MSW, Master of Social Work program. It was critical, especially after the isolation noted for COVID, that seniors be given the opportunity for mental health counseling services. And to say it's thriving would be an understatement. The last note for Cal, last year, by the grace of Advisory and Finance and our town meeting and our government, we were afforded the ability to open the Cal Cafe, which is a hub for socialization, for great food, and just people coming together. And we celebrated our 1-year anniversary in November, and it's extremely successful. And you'll note in the budget, we have decreased that line item because we hope to be self-sufficient and self-sustaining in terms of making that restaurant work. So those are a few highlights of Cal. Of course, we're open to questions. We did do some fun facts. We made 10,241 personal birthday calls last year. We do sing happy birthday upon request. You know, we have 357 volunteers. We saved the town $1,214,414 with volunteer hours given at the Cal. Their transportation is an issue in this town. We partnered with GATRA through a grant process to create the Cal Express, which is a free service for seniors anywhere in Plymouth to come to and from our location. And we've done 2,500 rides this past year. Caitlin, do you want to go into the budget portion of what we've changed? And then, of course, we're open to any questions.
Sure. So I'm looking at this memo that we sent to you, and I noticed a typo. So it says that the proposed fiscal year 25 operating budget includes a decrease in expenses of $50,200, including a $2,000 Cal Cafe budget decrease, but it was actually $20,000. So I just wanted to say that.
Good catch.
Our budget this year upcoming has increased quite a bit, but
Caitlin, I want to find that correction. Where
Okay.
is that?
it's under budget observations.
The last sentence under budget observations.
Kind of the top of page 2. That section.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the decrease was not 50,200.
No, it was, but it just says included a $2,000 budget decrease for the Cal Cafe, but it's actually a $20,000 decrease for the Cal Cafe.
1 0 missing there, Bruce. Lawrence, sorry, Lorenzo.
My book says Cal Cafe nutrition budget decreased 20,000. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah,
So it looks like the correction made it into the final print.
okay.
Perfect. Yes, I think it was just an error on our memo to you.
Okay.
Yes, so our budget increase is mostly because we've had some positions added, Emily's position, thankfully, the assistant director, and previously the director of the department was split between 3 departments. So it was split between Cal, Recreation, Library. Now it's fully going to be paid by Cal. So that was a big financial difference. We're also adding a part-time custodian, and the town agreed to go half with us. So we'll pay 50% out of our state formula grant, and the town will pay the other 50%. Let's see what else. Just some of the decreases and increases. So our R&M budget, we decreased quite a bit because we moved things over to facilities. So we don't have any of those contracts anymore. Our HVAC budget, which is a very large amount, is now being moved over to facilities. Last year it was 32,000. We're adding to the meetings and education and training budget by $1,000. We're adding to the printing budget along with the mileage budget, just because we have the addition of Emily. And myself as the assistant director, along with Michelle, will be going to a lot more events and networking things, conferences. So we anticipate an increase there. But other than that, we don't really have any increases. You have any questions?
Yeah, you want to talk about the revenue budget?
So our main source of our only revenue really is from the cafe. Since the cafe opened in November of 2023, we have about 60,000. Let me just get the actual number, 1 second. As of today, we have $64,689 in our revolving fund for the cafe. That's the only revenue we get. For the programming, we take a 10% rental room fee. So last year, for the total fiscal year, we raised $7,321. That goes into the town's general fund.
And what was the cafe last fiscal year revenue?
The last fiscal year, so that amount I just gave you was from November 20. Oh, wait, hold on.
Right, but that's not a full year, right, in revenue?
No, so from last fiscal year, the total we earned was 27,728.
That was from last fiscal year, Caitlin?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and similar, my question, Bruce, if I may, similar to the public health question around metrics, you know, obviously this is a service. It's clearly not, it's more of a cost center rather than funding itself based on the revenues. And that's fine because as you mentioned, 40% of our population is 55 and above. Do you have any demographics like 2023, 24, and 25? So it's 40% today. I would say that'd be 2024. What was it in 23? Is it increasing over time? Our
Yes.
demographics? Okay.
Yes, I certainly can speak to that, Lorenzo. And Caitlin can as well, I'm sure.
So just let you know, so for this fiscal year, you know, from July to today, we've raised 23,000 in revenue. So last year in the full fiscal year, it was 27. Oh, wait. Oh, hold on 1 second. Going in between. So we raised 36,000 this fiscal year so far for the cafe.
Okay. I was talking about the demographics, I think.
Yeah, I know. I just wanted to let you know. We are a successful cafe.
Yeah. The demographics, though, in terms of seniors, when I started in 2019,
Right.
it was approximately 36% of the town was 55 plus. The latest, of course, we had that census consideration where it was delayed. But the current, it is 40%, and the projected in 2030 is projected at 44% to 50%. Now, the 50% is ambitious, but it is projected to increase and not plateau in any near future.
For the population of Plymouth.
Correct.
Okay.
Specifically for Plymouth.
So yeah, to me, Cal is you know, demand is increasing, and
Yes.
it should be aligned with that in terms of the budgets and things like that. A question, and maybe this is a not necessarily, you know, a large portion of the cost increase, you know, the optics, it went up by almost 22%, I think 21 and some change for fiscal 2024 from a Cal perspective. But the justification was the department head position was funded by Cal and recreation and library. So is that, and maybe this is a question for town manager or finance and planning, but how does that play out with recreation? Is there a department head there? Is there a library? Are those costs included in their department budgets?
So, go ahead, Michelle.
Oh, no. If you take it, Caitlin, I love that you're taking it. Go
Well,
for
we
it.
might not have the same answer, but Michelle is the department head for all these departments. I'm not
Mhm.
sure why they split it up before. I mean, they told us now that they're putting it into one department just to make it easier for everybody. So I'm not sure why they split it up before. Recreation, health, they all have their own division heads that are paid out of their departments. So that answers your question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
so
the words division and department get
Mhm.
intertwined in maybe confusing ways. So there's one department and one department head, which is myself. Each of these factors are divisions, and they have division heads that run them, and their salaries are under their own individual divisions. So yes, Karen Keene, as you just saw, health director for the health division, in her budget was her salary. And so on and so on. It's just because I vacated the Cal director role, it made sense to put everything streamed under one department instead of, it's really difficult to break out the percentages. It's just
Right.
not necessary.
So
So
in that-
Michelle, where is your
Oh, go ahead, Bruce. I was going down that same road.
Yep, I'm under the Center for Active Living.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I'm
And-
under, Emily Wilson is under the Center for Active Living, and Caitlin Correa, who was always under the Center for Active Living as administrative assistant, is now under the Center for Active Living as assistant director. So
Yep.
the three of us are under one umbrella, just for continuity's sake.
Lorenzo, I backed out those numbers and came up with a 17% increase on the total personnel services. So I was also concerned about that, but that's in line with the increases that Caitlin had cited in her narrative here. But this was essentially without looking at Michelle's impact on the budget. It's still a little higher than I would have liked to have seen.
Mhm.
But again, that goes back to our earlier discussion, Michelle, about needing to be thoughtful about it going into next year.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, this is a new kind of strategy and structure for what used to be very different divisions, right? And now you're consolidating and aligning. And I think with the leadership structure that you have in place, efficiency around each division can be, I would say, a catalyst or a multiplier of what the resources you have for each division. So fully in line with the direction that Derek is taking with Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Much appreciated. We're excited.
No further questions, Bruce.
Lorenzo, I had to dig back through my budget book in order to find the email from Michelle to Jeanette regarding the revolving funds for fiscal year 25. So, Caitlin, there are 2 revolving funds
Yes.
associated with the center. Can you speak to those?
So the first revolving fund, the 2622, is the programming fund, which I mentioned that 10% we charge for a room rental fee. So it's basically just the fees go in, and then the fees go to the general fund, but the rest of the money just gets paid back out to the instructor. And then the 2626, that's the Cal Nutrition Fund for the Cal Cafe and the Meals on Wheels. So the same thing for the Meals on Wheels, the money goes in and then it gets paid out to All Colony Elder Services. But the Cal Cafe money is in there and it stays in there.
Does any surplus go back into the general fund? Is that?
No, not for the
No, it
CalCap.
stays, it's, okay, that stays in the revolving fund.
Correct.
Okay. Cool.
But not for rental. Rental gets swept.
Yeah,
into
the rental
general
goes
fund.
in directly into the general fund. It's
Okay.
split when I enter it into Zobrio.
So, cafe and Meals on Wheels, that revolving fund just carries over year. Okay,
Correct.
thank you.
Sorry, taking notes. Cool. Caitlin, Michelle, anything else you want to share with us?
No, I think we've covered everything under the Center for Active Living. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I'll open for public comment. Anyone from the public wishing to make comment regarding Center for Active Living budgets, welcome to do so now. Hearing and seeing none, I'll close public comment. Lorenzo, I am good to approve this budget as presented. And you? Let's check one thing here before we, yeah, that was fun. Okay, Lorenzo, how do you vote?
We didn't take a vote for the public health. I thought we were gonna.
We're gonna do that right after this.
Oh, okay, good.
I added a note in the chat to you to say that we would do
Oh,
that.
I didn't see that. Thanks.
It's okay. My miss. So I want to do Cal first while we're talking about it.
Okay. Yes.
And I am a yes as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Caitlin, thank you so much. You actually did a great job and
Thank you.
welcome into your
Thanks.
role. That's great. Glad to have you on board.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll close out Cal at this point, and Michelle, we're going to go back to public health. Lorenzo, any discussion on public health?
No further
Just
discussion.
the note that the numbers provided by Karen do align with the budget book as expected. So we're good to go. So I vote yes, and you vote?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so we are doing well in terms of time. Michelle, might you want to take a minute and talk about animal control while we've got a few minutes before, and we'll plan on starting library promptly at 10.
Sure. I did, and Karen Keen is still on, so we can kind of tag team this in terms of, so animal control is actually in transition to this department and hasn't fully transitioned yet. So forgive us. I know we did a little communication this morning, Bruce. We are in meetings. We've held one meeting with David Gould, who is still currently heading that department. We have a few meetings scheduled next month. So the plan is to transition animal control to Health and Human Services in March. So we know this. We're excited. Karen took it upon herself to meet with the animal control officers to welcome them in the future to our department, to get to know them and hear, get to know them, who they are, what they're looking for, and ensuring that they felt, essentially a warm welcome to our department when that does happen, which is important. So I really thank Karen for that, and she can certainly speak on that. We know through David Gould that there was a capital request for a new vehicle. Because it was antiquated is the word I'll use, and for obvious reasons necessary for them to do their jobs. My understanding is that was approved thus far through the process, so we're looking forward to that positive news going forward. We really haven't gone into, in full disclosure, our full conversation about the budget. That is scheduled with David Gould, Karen, and myself, a meeting next month. So I don't want to be remiss in talking about past trends or where the budget was last year and where it will align for the upcoming year. But we will do our best to answer any questions you may have. And if I don't have the answers, I will certainly make sure the appropriate party gets it to you.
Are you expecting the budget to lay out pretty much as shown in the finance report?
Yes, from what I can see, there's not a huge variation here. So I definitely expect it to go. I've not been told there's any radical changes.
Yeah, it looks to me like the changes to salaries, buyback and stipends are in line, and the percentage at 6.7% is in line with what I have seen for pretty much all other departments.
Yes.
So we're good there, and there's no
Yes.
change in the in other expenses or department equipment. So I think we should be good.
Correct. I agree.
Karen,
I
you
just
there
wanted
too?
to know.
Yes. Bruce, you're absolutely right. The difference, the variance, again, step increases for the salaries. Again, buyback for those who are eligible to buy back, week vacations also there. So just like Michelle mentioned, the one really large item would be the capital request for the new van, because the one they have now can't be used in the winter, so it's not practical. So that would be the big ticket item, but for the budget piece, it's pretty cut and dry.
I happen to sit on the capital improvements committee, so I was aware of the capital request, but thanks for discussing that too. All right. So, anything else on animal control?
I have a question, Bruce.
Yes.
Thank you for the overview, Michelle.
course.
Just to echo back, animal control and using the nomenclature of department and division. So it stood as on its own before, right, as a animal control department. And it sounds like it's going to be, from an org chart perspective, under public health. Is it going to be merged?
Correct.
So,
Originally, animal control was way back in the day underneath the police department, and then it moved to marine and environmental affairs.
Mhm.
But what we've really looked at here in the public health department, we do also deal a lot with animals. You know what I mean? It's not just people public health in a way, it's also we're dealing with animals. And it seemed like a natural transition that the animal control officers, because we work with them so closely when we're dealing with situations like animal hoarding or nuisance complaints due to animals, that it made sense that with this progression of how we're looking at handling these complaints, that those folks, those animal control officers would move to my division as public health underneath the Health and Human Services Department umbrella.
and it was, Lorenzo, to your point, though, to your question too, and Karen's spot on.
Mhm.
It was a division under Marine Environmental, the Department of Marine Environmental Affairs.
Mhm.
So it doesn't lose its division
Right.
nomenclature, if you will.
Right.
It just moves from one department to another department.
Mhm.
Okay, so it will still be shown as its own division, but it would be under Karen's management. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes, correct.
good.
So
Okay,
we'll-
because I was gonna suggest that if it's combined with public health, then it might need to be shown in the budget separately. But I'm good with that. Okay,
Thank you.
anything else?
Yeah, so it
Open,
sounds-
go ahead,
so it
Lorenzo.
It sounds like next year, looking forward, public health budget will be different because you've had folks into it, right?
Correct.
No,
That's
it would be a
absolutely
separate,
correct, Lorenzo.
wouldn't it be a separate division? So it would have its own,
No,
Well,
that's
it
not
is-
what I hear.
292E would be continuing to exist.
Right, but I would probably be the one presenting that, similar to how David Gould
Yeah.
presents it currently. Yep,
Yep,
Yeah.
it's just, but you're right, Bruce, it would
Yep.
still remain
it
on
still
its.
has its own.
Lorenzo, it would still have its own division
Mhm.
Yes.
budget. All right. Open for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the animal control budget? Hearing, seeing none, close public comment. Lorenzo, you want to, I'm going to vote yes on animal control. You?
Yes, as well.
Thank you. For two of us, voting gets really easy.
Right?
All right. Let's see. We are a couple minutes early.
We do have our library here and our veterans. I believe library might be next on the agenda.
Library is next.
And Kelsey is in the house.
Um, hang on a second. I'm
Of course.
lost in my binder with. Okay, I'm ready. Sorry. So Bruce Howard and Lorenzo Pisano from Advisory and Finance. And if you want to introduce yourself and proceed.
Morning, I'm Kelsey Casey. I am the division head for the library, who is under the Department of Health and Human Services. So obviously this is a new role for us this year. The library does all of, your traditional library functions. We lend books, we have computers, we have Wi-Fi. We provide a variety of other services that might not be traditional scope of libraries. We have a food pantry within the library. We have a community garden that was put in last year through a state grant. We have recovery resources. We have a little recovery corner in the library for people struggling with substance abuse. We also have an excellent literacy program, which helps people, adults 16 and up, obtain their GED or their high set, which will allow them to go on to trade schools, colleges, the workforce. We also have another portion of that program, which are ESL services. So we provide one-on-one tutoring and conversation classes, which obviously these last couple of years, we've seen a huge uptick in. We currently have a waiting list for those conversation classes of 100 people. We provide a variety of services. So the migrant families that we've had recently, we, would help connect them with resources within the community. We also have seen a huge uptick in attendance, which has been fantastic. This last year is the first year that we've not only exceeded our pre-COVID number, or we met our pre-COVID numbers, but we also exceeded our pre-COVID numbers. So we had 175,000 visitors at both branches in the last year. We've also had 900 programs with nearly 20,000 attendees to those programs. So that's just the scope of what the library has done in the past year, and then some. So part of our budget requests for this year, some of them have to do with some reorganization of the Plymouth Public Library Foundation. So the foundation is a separate nonprofit that has provided funding for certain services, which they're now, because of just fundraising issues and revenue issues, they won't be able to fund anymore. So those include lawn care and local travel for the library, which they've been doing up until now, that other town departments do have the town pay for. So those just seem like a no-brainer for transferring over to the town budget. Another one was suggested by Brad Brothers. It was a one-time payment of $15,353 for an adult basic education teacher. So our grant funds for the literacy program, those are all through DESE. So DESE provides a lot of resources for us. They help fund 12 of our teachers. But one of our teachers is half funded through DESE and half funded by the Library Foundation. In recent years, with struggles of fundraising, they haven't been able to make that payment on July 1st. So sometimes that payment would trickle into the town in December, sometimes it would trickle in February. So each year kind of like gets pushed back a little bit. So Brad Brothers suggested that the town take on a one-time payment for this half of the teacher so that the foundation can catch up. So the intention is that on July 1st, 2025, in the town coffers, the foundation will put the money for this teacher so that they're caught up and there's no waiting for that payment to come through. Another change that we're trying to make is that our literacy coordinator is 80% or is 60% funded through the town, 40% funded through the DESE grant. Now, unfortunately, our DESE grant only applies to our GED classes. So all of our ESL portion, all the conversation classes, the tutoring, all of that is all volunteer coordinated. But our literacy coordinator has to do that initial coordination. So she's using some of her time to supplement this whole program that's not grant funded. So if we were able to move some of those resources to the town side, it would free her up to do more of that. And then it would free up the DESE funds to just completely focus on our GED program, which our GED program is a nationally recognized program. We had 24 graduates last year. We've already gotten 2 graduates this year so far, and we have at least 10 students in testing currently. So it's a great program and we love to support it, but the ESL side just doesn't get as much support. And as you know, it's a huge increasing need in town. So we would like to do 80% town funded for this position and 20% funding through our state aid. Now, this literacy coordinator position, she already gets town benefits, so it wouldn't increase any of that fringe. So she's already on town insurance. She's in the OPEIU bargaining unit. So none of that would change. It would just be the percentage of the cost. So there's a change in that. The rest of the wages is mostly just increasing our longevity, increasing with our step increases. We also, we have contracts this year, but that's not in our budget. We're just doing the step increases, we're just doing the longevity. So that's it for staffing. Is there any questions on that before I just go to the regular operating budget?
And also that reflects the movement of the department director.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I did have a question. You referenced the lawn care that's being transferred to the town budget.
Yeah.
So is that going to DPW? The responsibility? Or-
That is actually going to go to a contracting service. So similar to the setup that the Cal has right now. They also do not go through DPW and they go through an independent contractor. I mean, I'd be happy for DPW to take it over if they're interested, but I don't think that that's in the cards for them.
And how
Do you have
much?
anything extra to add to that?
Yeah, well, is that then included in the R&M buildings? Is that where that shows up?
Yes, that is in building R&M.
And do you know the amount of that?
Yes. Let me find that for you. That is $17,250.
Okay.
And this is grounds and maintenance for the main library and for the Manamet branch.
Right.
While you're there, Kelsey,
Mhm.
how much is the mileage reimbursement transferred?
That is-
Because I think in that section of the expenses, it's the net. There's 2 increases and 2 decreases for a
Okay.
net increase of 58,385.
Mileage is budgeted
fine.
for 500.
Yes. Yep.
Oh, small.
Yeah, it's pretty small. So it's just
Yeah,
for local
okay.
travel. So the foundation does intend to pay for like if somebody has to drive up to Boston for a
Yeah.
meeting, they would still include that. It's just like, going from the library to town hall to back.
Right. It's not material in my
Yeah.
mind.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, you had mentioned the migrant population services.
Yes.
Do you do like on-site outreach to, I know like, is it Baymont that has is probably our largest migrant or low-income housing center. Do you do on-site outreach to them?
So we haven't been able to until now because of how our literacy coordinators' hours are separated. And also we have such a waiting list that we don't need to recruit anyone because we have 100 people on our waiting list. So if we recruit them, we would just say, hey, sorry, you can't even join our conversation class. We were discussing, so I know that our families from in the Pilgrim Sands have moved on, but we were discussing trying to create like a computer lab because we do offer Rosetta Stone for free, but it's, the devices that they had just weren't working with the Rosetta Stone. So like the brands of phones, it wasn't working. So we were talking about doing a computer lab setup, but that was until everybody left. So it's something that in the future we would definitely pursue again. But you know, by the time we got our ducks in a row, they're already moved on.
Okay, thank you.
So as far as other expenses, prices, as with everything, have increased. Our contracts, things like our network, our, you know, just our Aruba, MyLibro, Beanstack, Snap, all of those are increasing. Our book processing actually increased significantly. We've seen a 13% cost increase in our books. So we actually did have a decrease in our ask for our book budget or materials budget to cover some of the other costs that have increased. And we also have seen a huge increase in toner, which one of our, you know, our main services is for people to be able to print. That is also something that we are requesting in our departmental equipment. Our children's copier and the one in Manomet, they have lived a long life and they are now past the point where they will be serviced. So we need to buy new machines that, you know, will be able to be serviced, because right now we're just crossing our fingers and hoping that they don't broke before this budget comes through.
The 29,200.
Yes.
And how many copiers is that for?
So that's 2 copiers, and then it is also some shelving units. We are trying to do a lot more promotion and branding for some of our services. So like our recovery corner, right now it literally is in a corner of the library, and we would like to be able to have a mobile unit where we can make it more visible at times, but then tuck it away in a corner for privacy so that people don't feel uncomfortable taking those resources.
Cool. Okay, so the increase in computer equipment, I think you covered that, right?
I believe that was
There's a small increase in R&M equipment.
everything.
What is covered under that line item?
In equipment, we have. So those are things like, we have RFID pads. So all of our materials get an RFID chip for security and tracking purposes. So those contracts have increased. We also have copier copier fees that are not in computer because they're separate from the computers. They're kind of like standalone copiers. They're not attached to any computers.
Okay, great. And then skipping down to library public use supplies.
Mhm.
That's
So
showing,
oops, sorry. Yes.
that's showing a significant increase.
So one of the public use supplies is toner.
Oh,
Toner,
okay.
yeah,
Yep.
has significantly increased in price, and we are looking in other avenues to see what we can do to cut those costs, but yeah, we haven't found anything that's sustainable yet.
So Kelsey, along that line item, and I can echo back, it sounds like that's a service that's provided to the residents who come in.
Yep.
Is printing is no cost to them. So
Yep.
that's toner and paper. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is there-
So
And I know it probably aligns with the increase in visitors that you point out, 34%. So it's not surprising for me, but is there, has the department or has the division looked into, subsidizing, kind of recouping a cost so that when you don't have to pay for something, you're printing whatever you want to print,
Yeah.
right? But if you have to pay a little something, that's 90% subsidized, 80% subsidized, and you kind of call it back, it taps the brakes on just egregious printing.
So yes, we do have that where people want to, print their 500-page novel. But we do have a printed cap. It's 10 pages per person per day. So, that does curb, the any abuse of the system.
That's thank you for
Yeah.
elaborating on the cap. That's great.
Yeah.
I'm a digital person, so I like to have everything as a PDF, So, but I
Yeah,
get
I
it.
wish more people
love-
would be like that.
right, and people, they like to have their printouts. So, okay, thank you.
And I mean, there are still surprisingly some organizations that you do have to print out an application for where they don't do a digital version. You do have to print out applications and send them in, which I mean, baffles me, but
Right.
that's outside of my scope.
Yeah, different topic. I think while I have your attention,
Mhm.
just similar to the other divisions, I'm a metrics kind of guy and a tabular. Overview perspective, that's great that you showed that a 34% increase, but if you could show progression from like previous year, this year, and a history, that would be great.
I have all of
this
that
is-
information, so I'd be happy to share that with you.
Okay, and then the
Just trying to
demand.
keep everything like short and
Right.
sweet. So
Yeah, tabular
Yeah.
form for your metrics, like the demand on ESL, what
Yep.
is that changing? And if you see that visually, you're like, oh wow, that's a significant change from prior year over year, and your forecast can be, 2 points don't make a trend, but the
Right.
more points you have, you can kind of trend that. So thanks.
yeah, I'd be happy to provide data because we collect a ton of data.
Not as critical for this year, but it may play more into next year's budget.
Yes, I'm
Yep.
looking at, to Bruce's point, forward looking to say, these overviews are great. They're nice one-pagers.
Yeah.
And if you have kind of, here's the state of our union, right?
Yeah.
This is where we came from. This is the current, and this is why we are projecting our budget the way it is. These are services that we provide to the community. The demographics show that, we're increasing in the 55 plus demographic, which is a higher use of library systems, and so it all aligns. So thank you.
And then I do want to mention, just in case you're not aware, we do have a municipal appropriated requirement that is required by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. So they oversee all the libraries in the state. So this budget does comply with that municipal appropriated requirement, which allows us access to state funding and accreditation, which are two really important parts of our services.
No further questions, Bruce. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you, Kelsey. And
See, I don't recall any capital requests this year.
Nope. Not this year.
Wait a minute, what about the windows?
That is under DPW, so it
That's-
is
that's
something
right,
that they
yeah.
do plan on doing, but yeah, we're 100% on board with that. because
Yeah, I'm not,
Some of
unfortunately, I
our
don't
windows you can
recall.
see outside, straight outside, just through the caulking, so.
And no revolving funds, correct?
So we are actually looking to add a revolving fund. So that should be on, Springtown meeting. We collect money, so we've gotten rid of fines. So if you return a book like a week late, you don't get fined for that. But if you do return a book that's been half eaten by your dog, we do collect funds to replace that book. So up until now, the Library Foundation has been taking those funds. So library staff collect the money and then it goes to the foundation and they sort of have their own little revolving fund that we utilize. So we just want to transfer that to the town just to make accounting easier because, you know, we can put everything through Munis. It's just a lot easier to track and it's a lot, you know, it's more visible for people to see like the in and out. So that is something that we're trying to add to our budget.
On this topic, Kelsey,
Mhm.
so that sounds like those, which is great, no late fees. You know, there's debate on both sides of the house on that. But revenues. So from a library standpoint, they're not really revenues, but do you
No.
have any, right? Because you're replacing a book that's been half eaten by the dog or
Yeah.
something. So it's really one side of the ledger going to the other side, and probably it's a cost center.
Yeah, it's
At the
just
end of the
a
day.
straight in and out.
Okay, so no real revenues from a library standpoint.
No.
Okay.
Michelle, anything to add?
Nope, I think Kelsey did an amazing job of showcasing and doing some real information and education about our incredible libraries. So thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Kelsey. Open for public comment? Hearing, seeing none, close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm good with the budget as presented.
Same
Let's
with me.
see, there was. Oh, that in the table that I was sent, just a minor. Oh, it was just a minor point. There was the FY 2023 actual department equipment was 12,975. So it shows as 12,972. So I'm gonna make that change, which
Oh, okay.
will make the total correct as well. Wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you.
Lorenzo, I vote yes. How do you vote?
I vote yes as well.
Kelsey, thank you very much.
Thank
We'll
you.
close out the library at this time, and I think that Anne is on board. So give me a second, and then we'll go on and talk about recreation. Anne, I'm ready when you are.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Ann Slesser. I'm the Recreation Director here in the town of Plymouth. I'm also a resident. I've been with the department for 17 years and I've lived in Plymouth now for 20. So thank you for having me. The recreation budget that we have submitted covers our operations in terms of 75% of my salary, 100% of my admin assistant, and then the rest of the personal expenses are all beaches and pond expenses. So operating the 5 public beaches here in Plymouth, Morton, Plymouth, Whitehorse Beach, Fresh Pond, and Hedges Pond. That's our biggest expense that we have, is operating those beaches and ponds. You can see it's $65,000 this year and an increase in temporary salaries. I've also pulled away from some of our beaches in terms of staffing. Out of, overlooking the last couple of years, the usage, how many people are actually there, that kind of stuff. I've taken a look at revising some of our lifeguard coverage for those ponds and beaches, especially like White Horse Beach and Fresh Pond to, weekends only, to help save on our cost for those temporary salaries. None of our program registrations and none of our, program activities that we run come out of this budget. We use our recreation revolving fund for those kinds of activities. Our budget increased this year by 1.3%. Just like all of you in residence, I really put a hard thought into this budget, knowing that these are my taxes as well. So we did have to increase some of our line items, like our technical services for the recreation website. Those fees have increased, and that's an actual cost for us that I increased it by. And also for our meetings and education in terms of staff training, lifeguard training, my certifications and stuff like that. That is the gist of our operating budget. A lot of the expenses that we have in terms of rec supplies are to help with the beaches, so whether I'm purchasing sometimes umbrellas for them or first aid kits, our AED contracts, stuff like that all come out of that rec supply line. And then anytime we fix like locks at the beaches, small equipment repairs, those do come out of my repair and maintenance line along with like field paint. So that's for the most part our budget in terms of the recreation division. If you guys have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer them.
And just for sake of posterity, you are in charge of the Recreation Division, Memorial Hall, and Manomet Youth Center. Would that be accurate? So
Yeah.
full description on what your responsibilities are. And I know that Bruce and Lorenzo were looking also, if you just want to share briefly a little bit about what your incredible division does. Some of the new programs, some of your metrics.
Sure.
Lorenzo loves metrics. So if you have any stats in there, that would be great.
So for the recreation department here, we operate the Manomet Youth Center. We operate Memorial Hall. So all the concerts and shows that you see that take place at Memorial Hall, we partner with outside vendors to bring those in. They're not recreation shows and they're not Memorial Hall shows. We partner with a third-party organization that rents the facility. But this year, at Memorial Hall, we're increasing about 20% on rental dates year after year. We're seeing more and more people want to come down here. They love the area. They love the downtown, how close it is to the bars and restaurants for the people coming here, and they love the waterfront. For recreation, we have some really big programs here that we oversee. Our flag football program, we manage in-house, has well over 650 participants a year. We have a program starting as young as 4. It goes up to high school age children. This summer, we're starting a girls only program. Flag football is now an Olympic sport. So that's our big one. We're really trying to push flag football even more to the community, especially like a girls only program to give them an outlet, somewhere to go. We also offer a 4 to 7-year-old smart soccer program that has well over 250 kids a season in it. We really thrive in the younger preschool market. Our classes start as young as 18 months, go up to the adult country line dancing classes, but we really thrive in that little kid age group. Our little sports stars classes, we've had to increase from 2 to 4 classes a session because they're so popular, offering them on the weekends for, those working families. We schedule and maintain all of the fields here in town. And when I say maintain, I mean, we maintain the schedule for those fields. We don't actually do the maintenance of it. But we schedule all the fields here in town and the pickleball courts that are up at Forges Field. We had quite a few participants in pickleball. That is one of our largest programs. I can advertise a program for pickleball today, starting in 3 hours, and that'll be full at 60 people in less than those 3 hours. So that's definitely a big player for us, and we're seeing more and more people. I used to think that the market was always older individuals, and now we started a weekend program, and the average age now is down into the like 30s and 40s with people wanting to play. So that's definitely something we're really trying to expand on and offer more within the community. And we keep those prices as affordable as possible. For a 6-week program to play pickleball, it's $30. We know that some of the individuals that participate are on fixed income. So we want to be able to get them out of the house and give them an activity, and for them to be able to participate and to afford it too. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
I have some follow-up questions.
Sure.
Um,
Go ahead.
And thank you for kind of the overview of the metrics. I think going forward, in future, the number of participants in your programs as you show on a yearly basis, that would be a great story to tell. I understand, pickleball, soccer, flag football, all great, but they roll up to a finite number of participants. And as you expand programs, obviously that number will increase year over year, right? And you talk about rental increases or interest in Memorial Hall, 20% year over year. That's great, but it's more of a question on the revenue side. So from a recreation perspective, is there revenues that you guys manage or take in? Say, the beach fees or things like that. I know there's licenses,
Yeah.
stickers, but that goes maybe to a different fund, and just questions around revenues. What's your revenue?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of our operating, we don't collect any of those revenues or keep any of those. So any ticket sales, any beach sticker sales, any daily parking fees at the beaches, those all go into the general fund or into the Plymouth Beach revolving fund, which the recreation department doesn't manage. So none of those fees go into the recreation department. The Memorial Hall fees has its own separate Memorial Hall revolving account. All of the fees that are collected and generated go into that revolving account. And then all the expenses in terms of operating Memorial Hall come out of there. So 100% of the Memorial Hall director salary and their benefits comes out of that revolving fund. All of the DPW overtime comes out of that fund. And then any small minor repairs come out of that. And then any equipment that we need to purchase also comes out of there. We've also used that fund to help fund some major capital projects. We've used the fund to help fund the chiller unit that was purchased. I want to say 5 years ago, we put revolving funds towards that project.
So,
And then,
go ahead. If I can echo back, the revolving fund sounds like it's P&L positive. The rentals pay for a lot of the things to operate it.
exactly.
Okay.
And that's the same with our recreation revolving fund. So when I submit my recreation revolving fund, you have to think that the recreation department outside of beaches and ponds operates as a business.
Mm-hmm.
So when I submit my revolving fund spending cap, that spending cap is hopefully based on revenue we generate from our programs and activities, but we don't spend that spending cap if those programs aren't running, if that makes sense. So we do collect registration fees for all of our programs, but a majority of our programs, like our tennis programs, anything that's off-site that we don't control, we only keep $15 of that, and the rest goes back to that third-party organization. So our spending cap is all based on our revenues that we collect. And so we don't spend the spending cap if the revenue isn't there and the programs and activities aren't there. So that's really important to understand. We operate basically as a business outside of the beaches. Everything has to be a net for us. We can't have a loss, you know, covering our staff salaries and our benefits, our class fees, all that kind of stuff, our class expenses.
No, that's a great kind of, um, you know, strategy, right? To
Yeah.
think that way, to think to running a business. I get it. We're a government. We provide services to our constituents, recreational things. It's one of the key drivers for Plymouth. I mean, we've got all these trails we go to, and you know, like you said, the Manomet Recreation Center. I was there the other day, walking the trail that goes down about a mile away. So of that next to the playground right there by the baseball fields.
Oh, by so Manomet Recreation Area. Yeah, the
Yeah.
baseball field. Yeah.
Yeah.
That playground was just redone last year. That's a really nice playground.
It is. I mean, I have 3 young adult children now. They're older, but my wife and I were looking at that playground and go, this is great. Look at this. So.
Yeah, and kudos to the Parks Department. They've done a great job over the last couple of years, really trying to bring those playgrounds up to ADA, you know, getting that new port in place surface, really trying to repair those. That I will not take credit for. That is all the Parks Department. But like I have a young daughter and we live in Manomet, so we use those areas.
Mhm.
So I'm thrilled with it.
Thank
Yeah.
you for your time, man.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for the suggestion. I made note of that in terms of how many participants we have yearly. So,
Yeah, particularly as we talk about future years, that showing those trends is going to be important.
Sure.
So just to go back over the revolving funds. So you've got the Recreation Department revolving fund.
Yep.
And that covers the 25% of your salary as well?
and 25% of my benefits as well.
Yep, okay. I see that here. Okay, then there's does that okay, so at the bottom it says the balance at the end of the year is carried forward, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then the Memorial Hall revolving fund. Okay, Recreation Director and the Community Resource Director is also authorized to spend out of that account?
Yeah, which is now the Health and Human Services Commissioner. So now it's Michelle. If I'm not here, she would be able to authorize any spending out of that account.
That sounds great.
And included in the Recreation Revolving Fund, I have 2 other full-time salaries and benefits that come out of that as well.
Yeah, I saw that. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
And then is it Hedges Pond is the other?
Yeah, Hedges Pond is a really small revolving fund. For that, we place all of our Hedges Pond registrations into that account. So anybody that
That's the half day
Yep.
programs and stuff.
Yep, exactly. So we put all of the revenue generated from that program into the account. We also pay any expenses out of it, you know, for terms of staffing. The staff for that program directly come out of it. And then we use it for any like minor repairs and stuff like that down there. We are working with Marine and Environmental to rip down the back cabins.
Right.
So that will be done fairly soon. We just did the whole purchase order and, you know, contract with the new company. So hopefully those will come down soon, but that does not include that front structure when you first pull in the main.
Right.
That I've submitted a couple of times. This will be my 2nd year to remove that structure and put up a pavilion. And we would contribute revolving funds towards that, but it didn't get approved. It
Did
didn't
you
move.
get funding? Did you get funding for design for that structure?
So I submitted a design plan for a pavilion to,
Right.
but it wasn't supported in 24 or 25.
Keep after it. It'll happen eventually.
I will. It'll continue every year. I think it's important for us. It gives us a shade structure to get the kids out of the sun during that program. It also replaces that building.
You might want to talk about that in terms of working that into the revolving fund so that any revenues that come from renting of the pavilion could potentially go into the revolving fund and who knows, maybe hopefully end of year balance could be carried or could go back into the general fund
Yeah.
for that. So that might help sell it. You never know.
Yeah, and we do plan on contributing from that revolving fund to help with the construction of it, should it ever get approved.
Agreed. Okay. I want to go back to the proposing cutting staffing at the beaches.
Sure.
I saw that you're cutting White Horse Beach from 7 days to 3 days a week, Fresh Pond from 3 to 2. Obviously that's going to help with wages for seasonal staff. Is there a safety concern here as well that we're not talking about? Do the beaches I'm sorry, I live on one of the ponds, so I don't go to the beaches very often. Is it posted that when there's no lifeguard on duty?
Yeah,
I'm sure it must be.
yeah, we have signs up right now for like no lifeguards on duty at all of the beaches. We put them up seasonally. We would adjust those signs once we got into the beach season for when you immediately walk into the park or drive into the park along with down by the beach to let people know when we'll actually be there. We do have signs already up at Fresh Pond. We cut down on lifeguarding. One, because of staffing. Lifeguards are really hard to find and to train right now.
Right.
You know, it's different than a pool. Pool has an ending. A pool has, you can see the people at the bottom. A beach and a pond, you know, you could swim out 150 yards to save somebody. So, you know, we really look for those swim team individuals and people that really can swim to be lifeguards. And that really shortens our pool or lessens our pool even more for qualified candidates. So about 2 years ago, we went down to just 3 days a week at Fresh Pond because it's not really utilized a lot during the summer, during the week. On the weekends, yes, you know, especially on a Saturday or Sunday, you know, it can be pretty busy, but you know, during the week, there weren't a lot of individuals using it. And the same we saw over the last 2 years with the new parking restrictions at White Horse Beach. We found less people using that area and just, you know, the lifeguards not having anybody to watch in the water creates bad habits. You know, I
See that.
you know, and I don't want them, you know, when somebody's in the water, they shouldn't be on their cell phones and we don't allow them to have their phones in the chair, but to sit in a chair on a beach for 8 hours.
With not much going on, it's got to be really dull.
Yeah. And it's a waste of town resources. And, you know, I know the hardships that we're facing. So
the Friday through Sunday coverage sounds reasonable, but makes me a little nervous too, particularly White Horse. But I guess that's really when people are using that beach. So, all right.
sure.
Lorenzo, I don't think I have any other questions for Anne. How about you?
No further questions.
And no capital requests this year, right?
I do have one capital request this year. It's for the master plan for Forges Field. So that's to evaluate, what that park can handle, and what expansion should really take place there. There's been some ideas thrown around of things that people would like to see in there. And I really don't want to piecemeal that park with how much property we have there. I really want to build it correctly and make sure that we're putting, some of the things that people are requesting to have in there in the right places.
I'm sorry, I do remember your presentation on that. I was pretty impressed. I made particular note when you suggested that maybe a hotel in the area would support out of town teams coming in and using the Forges Field complex, which I
Yeah,
think is a great thing to try and advance.
yeah,
So good for you for thinking outside the box there. That's great.
yeah, thank you.
Michelle, any additional comments from you?
Simply that you see why I'm so grateful for my new role. These incredible division heads certainly know their divisions and you can hear they're cognizant of cost, but want to give great services to our residents. So Anne, great job. Anne, Karen, Kelsey, amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Open for public comment. Any members of the public wishing to address the recreation budget? Hearing, seeing none, I'll close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm a yes vote on this. How about you?
I'm also a yes.
Very good.
Thank you. Thank you for your
I think
time.
we'll close out recreation. Thank you, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
I see that Roxanne has joined us.
Good morning, everybody.
Veterans next. Veterans is next. Okay.
Good morning, Roxanne.
Good morning, thank you.
Hang on, let me find veterans. All right, I'm ready. So Bruce Howard and Lorenzo Pisano from Advisory and Finance. You want to start with an overview of veteran services and then we'll go into the budget.
Absolutely. So my name is Roxanne Whitbeck. I've been the Director of Veteran Services for approximately 14 years now. Prior to that, I was the admin assistant for 2. So I have 16 years experience in this office. I've been with the town for over 20. Veteran Services, it's a great opportunity to help our veterans in town that are 200% below the poverty level. We run a state program for our financial assistance for our our veterans that are 200% below the poverty level. And then the other part of what we do here at Veteran Services is I help veterans file claims every day with the VA, and that's the federal side of the house. So we try to alleviate the burden on our state budget by trying to get veterans benefits through the federal level. I just got my numbers for Plymouth this year, and the VA is with the VA money coming into Plymouth, it's well over $2.8 million, which is huge. I don't file every single claim that goes to the VA, but I have had my hand in quite a few of them, and I feel that I've brought those numbers up quite significantly in my tenure as the Veteran Service Officer for Plymouth.
Roxanne,
Yes.
would that be considered revenue, 2.8 million?
It's not, well, it's not revenue to the disabled veterans because it's, that money is non-reportable, non-taxable to them. But I mean, I guess it's revenue out of somebody's pocket.
Right, and you just distribute those claims.
We don't even, I have nothing to do with the distribution of that. That goes to each veteran. When I sit down with a veteran and file a claim, they actually give me their personal banking information so that money will go directly into their direct deposit.
Okay, so that's the service that Veteran Services provides. You help.
That's one of the
coordinate.
services that we
Yeah.
provide. Basically, I take pride in saying that anything with the word veteran in it, we will be glad to help you. If we don't know the answer, we will find the answer for you.
That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Absolutely wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you. And I can talk a little bit about our numbers and the budget if you guys would like. If you notice, for FY 2025, our operating expenses went down from 2024, and that was at the suggestion of the town manager to cut our operating budget to 450,000, which is that's easy to do because a lot of our seniors unfortunately are passing, and I'm finding that the trend of the younger veterans isn't to come and ask for a hand up. They're just not doing that right now. As much advertising as we do and word of mouth, they're just not coming out for the state benefit. A lot of them are coming out for the federal benefit. So I can do a VA benefit is a lifetime benefit for them in most cases. So a lot of them are trending towards the VA as opposed to any financial assistance through the state. Then we also, if you guys notice, we will encumber 10,000 every year. And basically what that is with, did I lose you guys?
We're still here, but your video dropped.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Anyway, I'm sorry. So we encumber $10,000 every year, and that's basically to unfortunately the slow wheels of Medicare, and getting claims pushed through Medicare could take several months. So we're not like held to a July 1st. If we get a bill in August, we can still process that. We can still process bills for the prior year due to that encumbered money that we take in, because Medicare sometimes is slow in getting the the medical claims adjudicated through Medicare. So we do encumber 10,000 every year just for that purpose.
Does that show up in your budget?
The 10,000, yes, it should. They usually give us that sometime right after July, right after the new budget has been in place. Then we'll have access to our encumbered shortly after that.
I guess I don't see it as a line item in the.
Where is it in the budget, Rox, in the line item? Does it show as a line item in the budget?
I think it's in our Veterans Services budget. If we look at
Veteran benefits?
Veteran benefits, excuse me, yeah. I think the one that's in there now shows $500,000. And then, like I said, the encumbered comes on that every year, and it comes from our. I don't know why I keep losing mine.
It shows that line item dropping to 450.
Right, right. And that was at the suggestion of the town manager, but I just want to let you guys know that in addition to that 450, we always ask for $1,000, excuse me, $10,000 to encumber for our bills that come in late from Medicare, and it's always added on to our budget from the following year. I don't know if it's a separate line item. It's just something that's always happened. But it is under veterans benefit.
Okay,
And we also have, it's not a revolving fund, so to speak. It's what we call the Veterans Gift Account. And that was established several years ago through donations of veterans that, I've had veterans, like I have different groups in town that that give me money every year to help veterans that are right above that 200% of the poverty level. So I always keep gift cards in the office, Stop and Shop gift cards in the office so that they can either get food or gas. Right now, that account is up to $19,744. And like I said, that was established through veterans either passing away. I had one young girl as her college product, her college she did a project where she went around to all the businesses in town and single-handedly collected $10,000 on her own for our gift account. It was incredible. So through very, very generous donations like that, we've been able to keep the gift account alive. And like I say, it helps with, we can buy a tank of fuel for somebody. We can give them the gift cards. We've made car payments on their behalf. So it's an extremely helpful account to have to help our veterans that are right above that poverty level that don't fit into our state program.
Michelle, I'm wondering if that should be a revolving account.
I think we've talked, well, I don't know, but we've talked to Lynn in the past about that.
Okay.
We can discuss that further.
The way revolving accounts work, I think that you could carry the balance year to year, but it might add visibility to it if it was set up as a revolving account. Okay.
Bruce, if I can jump in, Lee Hartman.
Yes, Lee.
You can only use new revenue sources for a revolving account. So if it's an existing revenue source, the state will not let you, and we can double check, but generally what happens is if you have a revolving account, a revenue source now, you can't take that and then make it a revolving, it would only be new revenue. And again, Lynn can confirm that, but that's the case.
And we have to provide Tiffany with I believe it's every month we provide her with a list of donations that come through the town so that it's brought to the select board so the select board knows what's coming into that account as well.
Perfect. Okay. Doesn't surprise me that it's well managed. All right. Cool.
And I don't know if you guys are aware, but for our veterans benefits, 75% of the money that we pay out gets returned to the town as long as, I do my job correctly and make sure that all the requests that we put up through to the state are approved. And if they're not approved, follow up to get them approved. So we've never, since I've been the veteran service officer, we've never had any denials from the state for our reimbursement of the 75%. So it's really a win-win budget for the town because we get reimbursed 75% of whatever we pay out. There is a year lag time, but it does come back to the town.
So Roxanne, I have a follow-up, and I may sound like a broken record to Bruce and Michelle, but around metrics, if how many encounters do you have with each, on a yearly basis with your constituents, with the population that you service.
Oh
So,
my God. You
you know,
mean like, usually, I mean, it's right now, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the VA and the PACT Act and they're trying to be proactive for these kids that are coming out of the service now and the toxins that they were exposed to. So if I don't have 5 or 6 appointments every day that I'm taking VA claims, something's wrong. My day is full of taking care of claims every day. I try to keep it specifically to Plymouth because I am the Plymouth VSO, but I've been doing this for so long that somebody will tell a friend, oh, maybe she'll take it or, whatever. But yeah, every single day we're interfacing with the public, and I believe our office has a very good reputation here in town as far as helping veterans. Actually, across the state, this office has won 3 awards for our performance as a veteran service office.
yeah,
Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you.
But I agree with Lorenzo that particularly as we look to future years, it'll be really good if you can show the trend in VA claims that you're
Okay.
helping to process, or other requests that come in, including the veterans gift account. How many times are you using it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
but-
historical perspective is going to be very important to hopefully maintaining your budget going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
for that suggestion.
I did want to go back to Michelle, the document that I had from you. Let me share my screen. There were some discrepancies. They're not substantial, but the bottom line here is 2023. So the finance report is showing 149,231, which differs here. I think the other expenses was okay, but then the 2024 numbers, which is the middle row, that's
I
okay.
just use actual for the 2024, so I don't know if
Yeah,
I
you should use the we're gonna want to show that as the 2024 revised budget, not the
Okay.
actuals. And what was proposed to the select board, I don't know if this was a typo, but it's 4,630,88 and you show 4,530,88. So
That's
don't
the
wanna-
10,000, that's the 10,000.
that's the 10,000.
That's the 10,000 encumbered. I'm sorry.
Mystery
that doesn't-
solved.
Okay, so we're gonna want to show that as with the 10,000 included, to your
Okay.
point. Okay, but that explains it. Thank you very much. That helps. And that includes the 10,000. All right,
Yes, sir.
cool. Very good. Thank you, Roxanne. Anything else you want to speak to, Roxanne or Michelle?
Just again, the incredible things that are done for our veterans through under Roxanne's tenure and leadership. And, she's a team of 2. It's her and the incredible Joanne. So thank you for everything you do for our veterans and the care that you show. Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Being one myself, it is something that's near and dear to my heart. And our motto is, if you walk in the store, you're not coming here because life is good. You something is going wrong or something you need help. So we're glad to be able to be the face of the veterans and be able to help. It's a job. It's a great calling for me, and I'm glad to have done it for the last 15, 17 years.
I hope the veterans appreciate it. All right, I'll open for public comment. Anyone wishing to address the Veteran Services budget? Hearing and seeing none, close public comment. Lorenzo, I am a yes vote, and you?
I'm also a yes vote. Thank you,
Thank
Roxanne.
you, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Michelle, you want to address disabilities?
Yes, I would be happy to. So disabilities remains largely unchanged, as you can see. It's a very small budget. And basically, I think the notable part of the disabilities is the fact that we now have a formal assigned under Health and Human Services. Emily Wilson, the Assistant Commissioner, is our new ADA coordinator for the town, and she oversees this committee, the Disabilities Committee. So we're really excited to move forward with making sure that we meet the needs, and any future endeavors of the town will be well managed by Emily's leadership and direction. As noted on the comments for this, I mean, there are no changes to the budget, but 50% of the handicap parking violation fines collected in this town are forwarded to a fund that is set up for projects by the Disabilities Commission and can be used for needs in that area. So for example, the commission has reached out to departments within the town asking if there are ADA specific improvements or equipment that might be needed in various departments. So I think that that's a really positive thing. I know a few departments have looked at applying. It's a little bit like a mini grant process, applying for some of these funds to make sure that ADA compliance or enhancements can be had. That's essentially disability.
You know, the bridge over Jenny Pond is being proposed for replacement in order to be ADA compliant. Does
Yes.
that fall in that category?
No, these are a smaller, that project is a capital improvement because it's a very large scope project.
Yeah, it's $1 million plus.
Yeah, these are, I think, I don't, well, and I apologize that I can't be quoted, but I want to say that this fund has around maybe, and Emily, you might know, but like 95,000 roughly in it right now. So it's smaller projects spread throughout departments that could be used. You know, for example, they're applying for one. Ann's looking to, there's a in Stevens Field, there is a handicap accessible swing that they're placing there, and very creatively is looking for multiple resources to bring that swing to fruition. But you know, it won't be the full cost probably of this swing, but it will be contributing towards that if it's approved. The front desk at the Center for Active Living is not, I'll say, user-friendly, ADA user-friendly. And so there's a remodel that's happening to make that much more user-friendly for accessibility. So projects such as that would be potentially funded through this.
Is any portion of Emily's salary going to be included in this division?
No, Emily's salary is strictly under the Center for Active Living. So we streamlined the commissioner, the assistant commissioner. The ADA coordinator is just one of her roles under her assistant commissioner status.
Got it.
Yeah.
And there's a request to actually provide looks like office supplies. I think it looks like it was almost cut in 24 and reinstated as $50. So it's small in
Yes.
25. Yeah, okay.
I think they just depleted their office supplies for over a 2-year period. So
Well,
yes,
it's good to keep these small things in the budget year over year so that they don't get cut incidentally.
that's right. Agreed.
I'm good with this. Lorenzo, you have any questions in this?
I do.
Please.
Let's see, Michelle. So in the write-up, the department's analysis, and you know, I'm a broken record here, is going forward, if you could document any types of requests or from the Plymouth community for disabilities that would show, you know, possible trends in this particular division, right? And then, you know, funding it as you said, it's very minimal, $350. But I could just see this as services expanding over time.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think even listing the projects as you did for us here
Yeah.
would be helpful in the write-ups going forward. So I agree.
Thank
I have
you.
one other question. The
Please.
50% of the handicap parking violation fines, where does that go?
They are collected by PGDC. So they manage those funds. And then there is a fund held by the Disabilities Commission. Is that correct, Emily? That those monies are held, the forwarded 50% are held by that committee. They're not part of held in the town budget.
I'm sorry, Michelle, can you, the acronym PGDC?
Yes, that's, oh, that's great. I'm so used to saying PCGD, that I'm Plymouth, I will have to,
Plymouth Growth and Development.
thank you, Lee. I was like, Lee's going to say that for me. I know he is. Thank you.
And then how many fines are there annually? Is this a big revenue or funding source?
No, they're a separate, Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, but that
No,
is.
but how much money is funneled from the fines, I think is Lorenzo's question.
Yeah,
Well,
thank you.
it's 50% of whatever is collected.
And you don't know what it was in the prior year?
I do not know what it was in the prior year.
Okay.
And then this PGDC, this is not the police department, right?
No, it's Park Plymouth is what they go by as their
Right.
informal name. It's a special legislation that we created in the town to allow for a special parking authority to handle parking in primarily the downtown area. But they also have an additional charge of economic development and assisting the community. So it's not simply just parking, although that's their focus. So it's a quasi-governmental agency. It's a separate authority.
Okay. And where does that, I'm sorry, Lee.
No, sorry.
I'm familiar. Where does that go into town budget? Under what?
Nowhere. It's totally separate. There's no town funding whatsoever that assists them.
Okay.
They assist us.
They assist us, and we should probably get a report from them. Someone gets a report saying, hey, we issued 100 fines in calendar year 2023.
Are the fines actually applied by the police?
That's as far as I can go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they are a private agency. I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't think I don't believe I think all the fines, when you see a ticket, you mail it to Park Plymouth itself.
Yes,
So I think all of it is done through Park Plymouth,
I am
the-
confident.
Interesting.
Yes,
except for White Horse Beach, that's done through the town.
that's correct.
Yeah, no, the reason I only have further questions because it's in the comments. So I look at it as a revenue stream for the disabilities division.
Well,
That-
as a commission, they are a quasi, they're not considered a true division like the other
Okay,
divisions they're the disabilities commission, so they're a little bit different. But I hear you loud and clear, and just assuming this and just kind of taking this over, it would be important. We know that 50%, and I know that the balance is around, I was told 95,000,
right.
but your metrics conversation, is accurate. We will, for future, gain an understanding of exactly how that money's coming in and the numbers and what that looks like.
Right.
And where it's going out to.
Right,
Yep.
and who has
Yes.
authority to spend it, right? Because the commission might have authority to spend it.
It is the commission's authority too,
Okay, good.
because applications are had for that money and you apply to the commission for that money for those grants.
I
So
could
thank
also
you.
just add something to Michelle. The money going out includes the mini grants, as you were mentioning, and it also includes a scholarship program that Plymouth Public Schools participates in. So that is all encompassed in that fund.
Exactly. Thank you.
Thank you. No further questions, Bruce. Thanks, Michelle.
Open for public comment? Hearing, seeing none, close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm a yes vote.
I am a yes vote as well.
And next up is the 1749 courthouse.
Yes.
Give me just a minute to see if I can actually find that. Michelle, you had Brad's name on this. Is Brad on? I hadn't.
He was unable to join us today.
So are you covering it for us?
I'm
please?
covering it for him. Yes, and us.
Good.
Yes. So 1749 Courthouse, of course, for those that don't know, is a free museum in town center. It provides residents and tourists with a unique opportunity to learn the entirety of Plymouth's history throughout interesting displays of historical facts and artifacts. It is also noteworthy, the oldest freestanding wooden building and the longest used municipal building in America. Amazing history. It's open from June to October and also opens for special occasions such as a Thanksgiving celebration and tree lighting occasionally. This is right now, the 1749 courthouse, it should be noted, was historically under the Community Resources Department when it was Community Resources. Transitioning Community Resources to Health and Human Services, it didn't make a lot of sense for the 1749 courthouse to remain under Health and Human Service umbrella. And so the plan for FY25 is this beautiful historical courthouse will be moved from Health and Human Services to under the direction of the town historian, which currently is Connor Anderson. That's an overview of the courthouse.
So does that change which department this will be under?
Yes.
I'm not familiar with is it community historian? Is that what you said?
I think his title is town historian.
No, I think it's town archivist. He's our archivist, so I think it's town archivist, but he may have historian in there too.
Yep.
And what division is that in? Do you know?
So
Lee?
he's in the town manager's office.
Correct.
So that hasn't moved yet, so it's currently under Health and Human Services.
Correct.
Okay. Thanks.
Sure.
So what have we got here? We've got, looks like part of one person. One FTE.
Yes. Just looking for my sheet. Yes, not much has changed. There are seasonal employees, many volunteers, and really the only it's building supplies, just cost increases associated with building supplies.
So the salary and wages as permanent, those are seasonal part-time employees, someone, that's what that budget line item is going. for.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a fairly substantial increase in building supplies.
It was always other expenses, 2024, 2024 was 6,000. And the recommendation is an increase of $250, so $6,250.
Yeah, but R&M for buildings is going down and building supplies is going up.
There's some restoration that's occurring as well, that has occurred and it continues to occur. Truly through many grant opportunities. But this is some of the improvements and future improvements that are needed.
Might be good to have a handle on those as it transitions over to the town archivist.
Sure.
Anything else, Michelle?
Nope, that is it on 1749 Courthouse.
Open for public comment. Hearing, seeing none, close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm a yes vote.
I'm also a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michelle, I think we did it.
I think we did it, Bruce and Lorenzo. Can't thank you enough for your support through this process as newbies, right? As a new first
Right.
time. So thank you.
So I will be compiling the documentation for Health and Human Services, and I will send it to you for your review. And I think we're early enough, so we've got a couple weeks before my reports are due, so we should have adequate time to both compile that and get incorporate any of your feedback as well. So I want to thank you and your staff for getting through this in record time, and hopefully we can get you to your next meeting on time as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Truly appreciate your thoughtful feedback and your questions in this process. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Have a good day.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lee, for your help.
You are welcome.
Hey, Bruce, can we take a few minutes for a bio?
Yeah, we can take a few minutes.
Yeah, we'll go back at 11:30.
Yes.
Okay, thanks.
Lee, you okay with that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm pretty quick. I don't think I'm going to take more than 5 minutes, but that's up to you guys.
Just give us a couple minutes.
Yeah.
We've been at
Yeah.
this for a couple of hours.
Again, it's fairly
Yeah, just an overview. So Bruce Howard and Lorenzo Pizarro from Advisory and Finance. Just an overview of first community planning, and then
sure.
and you know, we'll then go through the budget
Sure.
and change it. Great.
So there's about 13 people in the department. And that includes the 2 staff members from Redevelopment Authority. So the bulk of what we do is the permitting end of the town. So whether it's so we have the Conservation Commission, Historic District Commission, Zoning Board of Appeals, Planning Board, Affordable Housing Trust, Open Space Committee, Land Use and Acquisition Committee now. There's a whole range of committees that we provide direct staff support, all the village center steering committees too. And some of the support ranges from just organizing and putting data together versus actually preparing recommendations and attending meetings. So a lot of what we do is that meeting attendance. For example, also the Visitors Services Board, which administers the money from the promotion fund that we'll be presenting to the full board, the full Advisory and Finance Committee next Wednesday. We oversee and provide direct support to that group too. So a whole range of different groups. And so any of the bigger developments that require special permits, planning board approvals, those all come through this office, and we provide that support to the committees. In addition, things like the master plan, village centers plans, housing production plans, the affordable housing goals, all of those come through this office too. Right now, we're working with the Historic District Commission on the expansion of their district. Again, another article that will be before you to expand the district into the Bradford Street, Union Street area. Doing historic surveys and work with the commission too. One of the things I'm kind of most proud of in a weird way is all the nominations we've done for national registers. So since I've been here, we have the Bethel AME Church, the Pinewood Camp down off of Herring Pond Road, the Burial Hill, the Mayflower 2. So again, that all comes through this office when somebody's looking to nominate a property on the National Register. One of the things I'm most excited about is at the fall town meeting, we just had a $25,000 appropriation for consulting fees. And things like a nomination, I can't do without some resources. And it's not a very expensive thing to hire the consultant to go through that, but without any money, it's difficult. So that money is going to allow us to do things, whether it's for the Conservation Commission, Historic District Commission, the Planning Board, Zoning Board. That money will be very helpful. For example, right now we're working with the Commission, Historic District Commission. We'll use some of that money to help update their design guidelines for the downtown. So I think that's kind of it in a nutshell. Oftentimes, if it doesn't fit in another department, it's here. So just for the budget, I'm just going to go very quickly because, again, there aren't a lot of changes. Most of the changes you see are just changes because of contractual requirements or obligations. But there are a couple I'd point out. One is when we look at our administrative staff and then our planning technician and our conservation planner, they are all entitled to overtime for meetings. And again, as I just went through that whole list, we're finding it's becoming a little bit of a challenge to provide the funding that we need to by contract, by their agreements. So you'll see that there's a small boost of a little less than $5,000 in the overtime line item. Again, because there's more and more, there's demand to have staff members at these meetings. So you'll see that increase. Although some people are telling me I'm going to retire soon, I haven't made that decision yet. So, but again, I have, at 62 now, I'm getting to that point where sometime in the not near future, but not far future either, I'll be looking to transition out of this job. So one of the things the town manager has done, and it's reflected in this budget, is we're going to create a new position called Deputy Director of Planning and Development. And the goal is to have a position that's a little higher than the town planner's position, with the ability to hire somebody who can come in, who has some qualifications. It would be a good transition person from my tenure here, to have somebody who then can come in as a deputy planning director and then move from there to ultimately, I think would be his desire to have somebody who could then transition into the director's position. So there's not a real challenge with what happens when somebody who has 35 years of experience in the town leaves. This is something he's done in a couple other departments too. So this is kind of a goal of his and the selectmen, to have that transition planning in place.
Succession planning is important.
The other thing, two things, and then we just talked about it briefly. We're about to engage in a major initiative with the master plan update. I think we're all very excited about that. So that will be starting. The RFPs are due on January 31st. And then again, on February 7th, the committee will start to look through, organize, and go through with selecting the consultant. The other,
Does the master plan effort impact your budget?
no, it's a separate line item completely. So the master plan itself, so it's either my staff support, which is already built into the budget, or the consulting money. So there's no impact on the budget at all. That's all covered in that line item, or that vote of town meeting from the fall. And then the last thing, big change I'd point out, is that the town manager again is transitioning the energy and energy efficiency components of the town into David Gould's department. So you'll see a decrease in one of my line items for technical services of $30,000. That's just being moved over to his department as they take the initiative for sustainability, energy efficient, and those things. And then any of the other changes you see in my other line items are really just to try to keep up with inflation, cost of living changes. The Economic Development Foundation, the money we give them, the money that we give to the Plymouth Redevelopment Authority, I just build a 2% increase in each year, just so it can kind of keep abreast of inflation or cost increases. And that's about it. Very busy department.
That shows under administrative services. Is that the 2%?
Yes. Yeah. 2%. Yeah. And then the line items for redevelopment authority are also up by put those up by 2% too.
So what all is in administrative services? I mean, that's 149,000.
Yeah, so that's our contribution to the Plymouth Regional Economic Development Foundation. And so we provide that, and we have done that for decades. And it's the money we provide to support the foundation. I sit on the foundation, Derek Brindisi, and then the chair of the select board sits on that foundation. The foundation not only is responsible for the kind of the things they want to do for economic development, but they're also, as part of the agreement we have, they provide services to us at our request too. So for example, if we ever have a TIF that comes in, they're involved in TIF is a tax increment financing that sometimes you can use to encourage somebody to come in. It's a town project, but they help us through that. We're in discussions of having a business improvement district downtown. Again, it'd be operated by the town, but they're very much involved with helping us go through that process. They're also very involved. We have a feasibility study for a potential convention center. And again, they're providing a lot of the technical support for that type of work, in addition to the things they do. And again, at some point, if the full board wants to have a presentation from the foundation in your spare time, that might not be a bad thing to have them come in and give you that update. Stephen Cole is the person who's the director there. also.
I know that there was staff member working energy, but also split with conservation.
Yep.
Does that staff member does not go to E&E?
No, so that's Patrick Farrar, and he will stay here, and his title is the planning technician, and he'll stay that way, which is exciting for me because, as you know, on the Concom, sometimes it's a challenge with the workload. So he'll be able to help with the workload of the Conservation Commission. He is now going to provide staff support to the Land Use and Acquisition Committee, which has no staff support right now. He is now very much going to high gear into updating the town's open space plan. So yeah, we have plenty of things for him to do as he transitions away from the energy and sustainability section of what he was doing up until now.
Sorry, another country heard from. As we've talked about with Health and Human Services, it's going to be really important in future years to be able to cite metrics and that reflect your involvement in some of these other committees and that you cited in your operational overview. So, you know, I do expect that there'll be much more pressure, budget pressure in the years going forward.
Yeah. And metrics is an interesting one because, for example, most of the revenue that comes to the town, that comes to this office, shows up in the building department and the revenue they generate. So you don't see a lot of generation of revenue coming in, for example, when a subdivision comes in or a zoning board of appeals case comes in. It's also really hard to measure metrics when you're representing something like the Open Space Committee and how you gauge metrics for those quality of life type things. But I certainly understand that.
Yeah, I saw that you did include the revenue from filing fees and conservation receipts, so thank you for that. Year over year metrics is something that Lorenzo and I have been talking about with the other divisions. Lorenzo, I think my questions have been addressed.
Great, thank you. Lee, thanks for the overview. The one piece around succession planning, the deputy director, is that included in the salaries and wages?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So basically, we have 2 planner positions right now, and we have Robin Carver, who is just an incredible resource for the town. But she has announced that in the middle of March she's retiring, so that position will become vacant.
Right.
So there's a marginal increase. I think she's in the 100,000 range, and we've built this one into 110 for a starting salary. So there's a marginal change there, and then her position will stay vacant. I'm going to take a leap and guess that there will be a recommendation in the master plan for additional staff support for things. So we may come back in a future year to add that position or fund that position. But at this point, you know, we're comfortable with a deputy director and 1 planner, which is the same staffing level we have right now, essentially, but with the succession in it.
Yep. No, thank you for that. We do that as well in my current day job. We play around with open positions and things that we're doing and what the variances on year-to-date salaries and expenses that we look at, and totally agree with that. Thank you for that background.
Sorry to hear that Robin's leaving. She'll be missed, but
Oh yeah.
gonna need to fill
You
this
become
slot.
this when you work so closely together, night meetings and day to day, you become more than just workmates. And yeah, she's a great team member, a great person to have. We're gonna miss her.
Well, we'll miss you when you retire too, Lee.
Yeah.
Some people will.
No, we'll miss you. I've interacted with you over the years, Lee, and You got a great knowledge, historical, as well as a good fiscal mind behind that. So
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
you're definitely a positive for the town of Plymouth.
Thank you. I'll give you a list of people. I'll give you a list of people you can call and tell them that.
Okay.
Being 6 months into my own retirement, I do highly recommend it, though.
Thank you.
More time for canoeing and kayaking.
Yeah, I have 5 grandchildren, 3 of which are across the country, so I can't wait to be able to see them a little more.
Yeah.
Lorenzo,
Last
go ahead.
question. And since we have you, Lee,
Mhm.
the TIF, do we have any TIFs?
We have no active TIFs
Okay.
right now. And for the most part, I don't anticipate seeing one. However, if you follow the news, we have a water issue in West Plymouth, and there's a water deficiency that we have to address. We've worked out a possible solution with one developer, although that may not come to fruition with appeals. I could see a TIF maybe going to somebody to help offset some of those things. The last TIF we did was the one for Cranberry Crescent, where the market basket is, and that money went to pay for the improvements of the lighting that is this traffic signalization that's there.
Right.
For the most part, the TIFs we've always given to the out in the town are fairly minimal too. We don't tend to give, other communities you'll see give very large tax breaks to encourage people, and our tax breaks either tend to be minimal or there to cover some additional costs that we're trying to jointly address.
Okay. No, it's squeezing the balloon. I mean, you squeeze it somewhere, it's gonna, whether it's in
And I think we see a TIF is a very valuable tool, but time and time again across the Commonwealth, you can see people's towns giving very large TIFs, and within 2 years, those companies pull out, so they don't have any revenue and they don't have the business too. And we don't want to be in competition where we're outbidding or bidding with other communities for those types of things. But it is a valuable tool to have.
Bruce, no further questions. Thank you, Lee.
Anything else, Lee?
No, that's it. I'm just gonna apologize in advance for the lengthy night you're gonna have Wednesday night with our articles, but I look forward to going through that process with those articles on Wednesday.
Well, Wednesday night was 4.5 hours almost, so
Please don't make me go that long.
hopefully we can address that before it starts. I'm going to open for public comment.
Jeanette?
Hearing and seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm a yes vote.
I'm also a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Lee, shall we move on and talk about?
Yeah, and again, you see in your
hold on a sec before we do. Revolving funds.
So I don't anticipate any revenue at all on any of the revolving funds. Sometimes it's hit or miss in Plymouth Center if somebody pays into the parking fund. And we have at this point no plans to use of any revenue should it come in from there. So if there was anything that would go back to planning board, back to finance committee and select board for any appropriations. But at this point, that money comes in. It's only used for capital improvements, and I'm not aware of any projects currently coming through there, or any significant revenue we expect to see coming into that fund.
And thus the $1 authorization means
Yeah.
that it would require authorization in order to spend any incoming funds.
Exactly.
All right. Where am I missing here? I am missing. Redevelopment Authority.
Yep. So you have the little summary I put together for you. The only thing I would say, and again, The only thing we've done here, it's a nominal amount of money in the town's budget. We use that money to help them offset. So anytime you go for a grant, you need matching money. So this is money there to help them match the other things I do. And the only thing I would point out is that they are one of the more affordable groups you can use to help create affordable housing. So every private developer in Plymouth who's moving forward has to create affordable housing. When those units are created, they have to market those to people. And some of the companies that do that are very expensive. So we find that partnering with the redevelopment authority to help us with those lotteries and do that affordable housing is very important. So again, nominal amount of money, just building in a cost of living type of increase to that amount. And the funds are used, which probably represents about 20% of their budget. The rest comes from other revenue sources.
Can I ask a question on the comment you made, Lee, about, is it now required for any new residential development to have affordable housing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, I don't like absolutes, but I
Right.
don't. So there are limits, like if you're under if you're under 5 units, or if you're not triggering a permit. But 95% of all new development, these are under 5 units or does require one of 3 options, either affordable on-site, a payment in lieu of that would go to the Affordable Housing Trust, or there could be some arrangement of, say, a land donation in lieu of. But the vast majority are on-site. Things that there are some that are payment in lieu of, but yes, every new development, 10% affordable. So if you have 10 houses in your development, an 11th would be created, and that 11th has to be deed restricted in perpetuity affordable.
Lee, I know that when we looked at the CPC projects on Wednesday, there was discussion about the memorandum of understanding.
Mhm.
Is that the typical method for
Yeah,
specifying affordable housing units in a project?
So there are 2 things. So the vote itself and the permit, and when I sent Jeanette both the special permit and the MOU. So the special permit dictates the parameters of what is required to comply with the inclusionary bylaw is the technical definition. And then the nuts and bolts of how that's administered is done through the MOU. So for example, many of the ones will say that prior to the issuance of the 20th permit, this has to be done. Prior to the issuance of the last permit, these things have to be done. So the MOU kind of explains the details of what has to happen and goes hand in hand with the special permit. And also, since I have 2 of you, I will point out that when we first did the inclusionary zoning bylaw a number of years ago, we always envisioned it as a partnership, a community partnership between the development community, the town. And so I was actually very, maybe naive, but very surprised when it finally got approved. And the attitude has always been, well, that's the developer's responsibility. They have to pay for it. Now, 80 Makepeace, whether it's $4,000 or 4 million, that's a different discussion. But I would say that I had always envisioned more of a partnership in the affordable housing, meeting the requirement that we have, a partnership with CPC and the town. That hasn't happened. Again, I think there's this expectation that developers are responsible on their own. And again, we work through that process as a community, but I would say that when we did this initially, we always envisioned partnerships more than we did that we simply say, that's your problem, not ours.
Right. No, that's,
So is the MOU legally binding, or is it the special permit?
Well, the special permit's legally binding. MOU is an accompanying that can be, it's legally binding. I mean, they have yes. And it was all drafted through council.
right. I would say, my comment on this, and we've got the subcommittee here on the budget, but on this topic, I share your kind of sentiment on the surprise nature of that, because I always consider partnerships come and go. There's the ebb and flow how things come from 2000, from 10, 20, 30 years ago, and it is a partnership, and I was surprised too. So
And,
it'll go through
again,
that
I don't
process.
want to have a comment on whether the 4 million is appropriate or not.
Right.
I'm just simply saying partnership, not necessarily the reasonableness of the request that was before you.
Correct.
Lee, I
Whether-
think it might be appropriate to see if you could get before advisory and finance and talk about all of this,
So
maybe
I would,
after
so-
town meeting.
yeah, and yeah, or if somebody wanted to ask it after we're done with my articles on Wednesday, I'd be happy to mention it too. But either way,
Yeah, just as you point out, articles discussions tend to be lengthy, so
yep,
ANF may be more receptive to spending an appropriate amount of time and consideration off cycle.
yep, yep.
I don't have any further questions about the redevelopment authority. Lorenzo, do you?
No.
I'll open for public comment. Anyone wishing to make comment should do so now. Hearing and seeing none, I'll close public comment. Lorenzo, I'm a yes vote.
I'm also a yes vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So Lee, I mentioned this when Michelle was on at the front end of this call, that I met with Derek on Monday, and from that conversation, it was clear that the budgets going forward are likely to be there'll be more pressure on the budgets to be flat. So that's why we've been talking a lot about metrics to show any, an increased workload on your divisions. So particularly community planning. So something to keep in mind going forward.
Yeah, and I think for me too, as we talk about if there are any reductions, it really comes for reducing support for various boards and committees, because that's the bulk of what we do. So if there was reductions here, that comes out of, what we can do to support the various committees in town.
Something to be considered in
Yeah.
future budgets. But for now, I think we're set. So
All right.
I will be writing up our notes. Thank you for your contributions to that. And I will get it off to you for your review prior to submitting it to the full ANF.
Okay, great. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, you too.
You too,
too.
Jeanette. All right.
Bye-bye.
So it is a
too,
wrap
Lee.
for subcommittee. What are we? Subcommittee E.
E.
So with that, we conclude. So vote to adjourn. Lorenzo, how do you vote?
Yes.
I vote yes. This subcommittee is adjourned.